Hey guys, it's Matt Muchagrosso here, creator of Xenoplicity and the Q system it runs on. Today's video, we're going to be doing a mass combat video. We're talking about how mass combat works in Xenoplicity and just doing some sample gameplay so you can see what that looks like. So, in Xenoplicity, mass combat can take many forms. This might be starships fighting in space above a planet or even in deep space, or it might be, archaic forces clashing on a battlefield or sieging a castle, where you've got, spearmen and swordsmen and, cavalry and archers, things like that. It might be modern warfare or even futuristic warfare where you've got infantry that's fighting alongside, tanks and or even mechs, depending on the tech level that the people have. Right. It could even be something like a mob or even a riot or, things of that nature, or even gang warfare. Could even be something like a mob or a riot in the streets, or gangs clashing, in large numbers. Right. So mass combat can take many forms. So you definitely want to kind of hammer down what this conflict is going to look like. But the rules work no matter what the flavor and theme kind of like is of the battle. Okay. Now, mass combat turns, they are scene turns, so the turn is going to be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or 20 minutes of time in the game, okay? And you can use whatever makes the most sense, whatever seems to be most appropriate for the type of conflict it is. The turn order, just like everything else in Xenoplicity, we do have turn orders for mass combat. Step 1 is the leadership phase. This is where a skill roll is going to be made by the player character that's leading the army. I'll leave you make a luck roll if it's an NPC doing it, okay? And if you get a success on this, the number of successes you get is going to serve as a bonus on soak rolls that you'll make later on in the turn for all of your forces for that turn. If you fail it, then the degree of failure that you suffer, that's going to be a penalty, okay, for soak rolls all through step 2. And then initiative tokens, they can be spent at will at any time, just as normal, to add to damage at any point. So that all works the same. Step 2 is your action phase. This is when each force that you have selected will get a chance to either attack or move. Some forces can do both. So, depending on the force type that we're talking about, some can move and attack at once, but most are either going to move or attack as part of their turn. Okay, and then there are some forces that have a special ability that allows them to, instead of attacking or moving, they can actually build or bypass a defense. Okay, so that's something that they can do as well. Okay, and defenses, that's a special advantage that you'll get for each side, depending on the prosperity and the of the kingdom or the nation whose forces this belongs to, and it's modified by the tax rate or what have you. So depending on how wealthy and prosperous that side is, they're going to get so many defenses to spend at will. Now, defenses come in many forms, depending on, again, the tech level, what kind of society this is. Then, for an archaic force, then, defenses like catapults or burning oil or battering rams, that makes more sense. But for more modern warfare, then you might have things like, guns, like large cannons, airstrikes, that kind of thing. Okay. So for an attack, each force is going to get to deal its damage to a valid target, and you'll just roll for soak for the target. Okay, that's really the only roll that's going to be made. And for every success that gets past the soak, for every damage that gets past the soak, one unit is going to be defeated. Okay, and defeat can mean maybe the force is routed, maybe they're killed, and maybe they're captured, and it's whatever makes sense in the moment, whatever the game master decides. Okay. Moves are done to get into position before attacks can be made by engaged forces, right? So if you have a force of swordsmen or spearmen, things like that, they have to move into position before they can attack. Now, normally this means that the first turn of a mass combat, these kind of forces have to move. And then, depending on the fiction, depending on the narration, maybe that's the only move they'll have to make, and that they'll continue to be able to attack going forward from turn to turn. Or it may be that the game master decides that after whoever they've been fighting is defeated, that if they want to move on to another force type, to attack a different force type, that another move might be required. That really is up to the Game Master. It may not be required. The Game Master might think that that drags out the fight a little bit longer than it needs to, and that in the fiction, that at that point it's irrelevant. Totally up to them, okay? So just do whatever makes narrative sense. And then finally, every mass combat turn is going to conclude with step 3, which is the narration phase. And this is when the director and the players get to narrate what happened over the course of the turn. You'll update any timers, and then you'll continue taking mass combat turns until the conflict is over. That's usually either when one side surrenders or one side is reduced to 0 forces, so there's no one for them to continue the fight with. Okay, so let's go ahead and build our sides here that we're going to have in this little sample conflict. On one side here, I'm going to put me, okay, because it's my forces on one side, and then we'll have the enemy forces, okay. All right, and we're going to say that I have 600 troops, okay, and we're going to say that my enemy has 800 troops, okay. All right, so you need to determine how many units each side is going to have for the conflict. These are going to be the hit points that the army has, okay? And so you are going to look at what both sides have available. I've got 600 on my side and my enemy has 800 on his. So in this kind of situation, you might say that, okay, well, each unit is 100 troops or each unit is 50 troops. We'll say each unit is 50 troops for this particular conflict. That's going to give me 12 units. And it's going to give my enemy 16 units. Okay? And out of those units, I get to decide how many are going to belong to each force type that I have available. So we'll say that I'm going to have some archers. Okay? And let's go ahead and give me 3 units of archers. Let's go ahead and give me some spearmen. And we'll do 4 units of spearmen. Let's also do some cavalry. I've got some, horses on my side, so we're going to do cavalry, and let's go ahead and do 5 units of them. Okay, and that's all I have. Okay, that's my 12 units. Over here on this side, let's go ahead and give them some archers. We'll do 4 units of archers. We're going to do some skirmishers. And skirmishers in our game, I kind of took the idea of skirmishers and I kind of mixed them with the idea of sappers, and I just call them skirmishers. This idea is that they're kind of like a mobile, a mobile unit that can move around the battlefield, and they can build traps or they can bypass defenses, things like that. They can also make an attack, but that's not really their specialty. Their specialty is kind of doing more like special ops kind of thing, or getting over a wall, getting past a gate, building extra defenses during the conflict to spring them on the enemy forces, that kind of thing. So skirmishers are cool, but you gotta use tactics when using them, because they're not going to be as offensive or defensive as some of these other force types are. Okay, we'll go ahead and do 2 units of skirmishers. We're going to do some swordsmen, and let's go ahead and do 5 units of swordsmen, and then we're going to do spearmen, and we're going to do 5 units of spearmen. So they have they obviously have more troops than we do. They also have 1 additional force type than we do, so that gives them a pretty good advantage. But we'll see how it plays out. The final thing you need to take note of is how many defenses that each side gets to start with. We'll say that for me, I'm going to have 4 defenses to start with. Okay, and I'm just going to have them all be catapults initially. And we'll say my enemy, maybe they're not as wealthy, maybe they don't have as wealthy of a kingdom, so we'll say they have 3 defenses on their side, and those will all be catapults too. This particular conflict, we're going to have it be a fantasy, kind of archaic combat. We're going to imagine something that would take place on our fantasy setting of Mythos. knights and soldiers and your typical Fantasyland kind of feel as far as the battlefield's going to look. Okay, and we're going to say that this conflict is going to take place on an open battlefield, not a siege. We won't get into all that, but in this particular example, we'll just have them clashing on an open battlefield, both sides coming out to war, kind of thing. All right. So I've got my forces put together. I've got my side and my enemy's side. Now, just like with any other type of combat, if neither side has any initiative tokens, then the first thing you're going to do is roll for initiative. That's going to be a 2d20 roll, and we go into that in another video. So I'm going to go ahead and roll these. I got a 5 and a 13. That means that both of our sides get 1 token. Okay, and again, we can spend those at any time to deal an additional point of damage. Okay. Alright, so step 1, leadership phase. So the first thing that's going to happen is I'm going to make a roll here for my leadership. Okay, and I've got an 11. 11 is 1 success, but it is a hitch. That means that my opponent gets an additional initiative token. Okay, and because it's 1 success, that means that I'm going to get a +1 on all of my soak rolls for this turn. My enemy is an NPC that I'm going up against, so I'm going to roll a luck roll for their side, and they fell. Okay, and because they failed, they're going to get a -1 soak for their whole turn. And this represents tactics on the battlefield, tactics throughout the whole combat turn. So out of the gate, I have some good tactics on my side. I'm going to be making some good tactical decisions. My enemy is going to make some blunders, and that's going to affect the defensive abilities of the forces that they're controlling. Okay. All right, so now we're going to move right into step 2, the action phase. Remember, each force type is going to get to either move or attack. Cavalry gets to move and attack, so that's the advantage of having mounted combat. They get to they're obviously more mobile on the battlefield. So we're just going to go through these. We'll alternate. Me then them, me then them. But the truth is that it really doesn't matter how you divvy these up, because everybody is going to get applied before the turn's over, and all of this is happening simultaneously in the fiction. So there's no chance of taking someone out before they can act or anything like that. Remember, this is an abstracted period of time. We'll say we're going to be looking at a period of about 20 minutes per game turn. So what we're going to be doing here is going to take place over 20 minutes of combat as the battle starts. Okay, so my archers, they're going to attack. We'll say they're going to pick the spearmen, so they're going to start shooting arrows at the spearmen. The archers, obviously, they don't need to move in position before they attack. They're a ranged unit, and archers deal 1 damage. Okay, so 1 damage is going to be dealt to the spearmen. Spearmen get a +1 soak. Remember, your soak value is a bonus on the roll to soak, and the damage that's incoming is a penalty on it. So if it's 1 damage and they have a +1 soak, then it would be those things would cancel each other out. So it would be even Steven. They would just need a 6 or higher to negate that damage. I'm going to go ahead and spend 2 of my catapults to go from 4 to 2 of that, to have the catapults launch at the spearmen as well. That's going to be a total of 3 damage that's coming in at the spearmen. The spearmen has a soak of 1, but the leadership of it is a penalty of -1 on their side, so that cancels that out. And then the 1 damage from the archers and then the 2 damage from the catapults means that this is going to be made at a -3, and they're trying to avoid 3 damage here. Okay, so 8 minus 3 is 5, which is a failure. And that means that they're going to take the full damage. They're going to take all 3 points of damage. So that 5 units of spearmen is now 2 units of spearmen. So now it is the enemy's turn. Their archers are going to fire back, and they're going to attack my cavalry, and we'll have them spend 1 catapult. They're also going to spend an initiative token. Again, that would be a total of 3 damage. So archers deal 1 damage by default. And again, all of these forces have a damage and a soak value and a special ability that is clearly defined in the book. So you know that based on what the stats are for each of these units. So the archers deal the 1 damage, catapults 1 damage, ranged attack that you can apply to anyone that's in range, any valid target. And then the initiative token can be spent to get an auto 1 damage of choice. So that's a total of 3 damage. Now cavalry doesn't get a bonus to soak. Okay, and so that's going to be made at a -3, and they're going to be trying to negate 3 damage. But I do get a +1 soak because of my good tactics, because of my leadership roll that I did at the beginning of the turn. So this is technically -2 that I'm rolling this against. Okay, I did not do good at all. So that is a total failure there. So I'm taking the 3 damage. So my cavalry is going to be reduced from 5 to 2. Okay. Back to me. I'm going to have my spearmen move to engage. So they're moving into position, and and that's all they can do for this turn. My cavalry can move and attack. So this turn, the cavalry is charging forward, and they're attacking. And we'll say they attack the spearmen. Cavalry deals 2 damage. Okay, and again, I can spend another catapult for a total of 3 damage if I want. Spearmen get a soak of +1, but again, their -1 soak negates that. So this is a total of 3 damage that I'm rolling. So this is a -3. And again, 7 minus 3 is a failure. And so this is going to wipe the spearmen out. They are totally defeated. Okay. Over here to the skirmishers, we'll say that they move to position. And the swordsmen are moving into position. And the spearmen would move into position, but by the end of this turn, they're all dead. And so before they can get into position to actually start attacking, they're wiped out, just based on the rolls and who got targeted and who got attacked. Okay, so that's the end of step 2. At step 3, we're going to narrate what all this looks like, right? So me and the other player, or me and the game master, are going to narrate all this out. You know, the archers firing, the catapults firing, people getting obliterated or routed or captured, the chaos of battle. All that can be narrated out, and you can put as much flavor and feel into that as you want. At the end of the day, the spearmen now of the enemy are gone. And then we just repeat this, okay? And so next turn, we're going to make another leadership roll. Okay. That is, for me, that is a 12, okay? That is 1 success, and it is a hitch, unfortunately, so the enemy does get initiative token. For my enemy's side, they do succeed. And so both of us got 1 success, which means both of us are going to get a soak bonus of 1 on all of our soak rolls for the turn. Again, we'll start off with me. My archers are going to attack his swordsmen. The archers deal 1 damage. Swordsmen have a soak of 2. It's still not enough, so that's a failure. And because that's a failure, then they are going to take 1 damage. So that 1 damage is going to knock the swordsman down from 5 to 4 units. Okay? Over here for the archers on the enemy side, they're going to be attacking my cavalry. And so they're again 1 damage. So my cavalry doesn't have any kind of soak bonus by itself, but my leadership does give me a +1 for the turn. So I've got +1 and I've got -1. So this is even. Those things cancel each other out. I just need a 6 or higher to negate that point of damage. And I got that. So my units stay the same. They don't go down. Remember, soak rolls, just like they do in personal combat, if you succeed, then you take 1 less point of damage. So 1 becomes 0, 2 becomes 1. Okay? If you roll a natural 10 on a soak roll, you negate all damage. So there's always that chance that you can negate all of it. But even if that's not the case, you still reduce damage on a successful soak roll. If you fail, then you take the full damage that's incoming. Okay, just like with personal combat in Xenoplicity. All right. Over here, my spearmen, they moved into position last turn, so now they can attack. Spearmen deal 2 damage. I'm going to have them deal 2 damage to the skirmishers. I'm going to try to knock those guys out, and I'm going to spend my initiative token to deal an additional point of damage. So that's 3 damage. Okay. So 3 damage coming at the skirmishers. They totally don't succeed in their soak. They are wiped off. They're wiped out, but they still get to act this turn. I'm going to have them for their last action before they're taken out and wiped out. They're going to build me a defense. We're going to build burning oil, like a burning oil trap. So what they're doing is they're setting up this burning oil trap around the battlefield. They're already in position to attack. They're already in engaged range because they had already moved to attack. They're spending their action to do this burning oil. And a burning oil defense, okay, I've got one of them now because they can build that, okay. I'm going to have them go ahead and spend it and use it this turn. You can do it at any time. There might be a reason to hold off on using it in certain battles, but for this conflict, we're just going to go ahead and have them use it up immediately. And so as they're being wiped out, they set up this burning oil trap on the battlefield, and then they ignite it. And this deals an automatic 2 damage to any valid target. We'll have them hit my spearmen, okay, for 2 damage. They do get a soak roll, of course, but this is made here 2 damage, so it's a -2. Spearmen get a soak bonus of 1, so this is a -1, and then my soak leadership is a +1, so this is even. And hey, I got it. I succeeded. So good for me. Instead of taking the 2 damage, I take 1 damage. So some of my spearmen are burned alive, but the others managed to get away from it. All right. Over here, my cavalry, we're going to have them attack. They're going to go after the swordsman. And again, cavalry deal 2 damage. I can spend my last catapult, okay, to make that 3 damage. Swordsmen get a +2 soak, and the enemy has +1 on their soak, so this is made at +3. So 3 damage incoming, and then 3 soak means that, again, those things cancel each other out. And they do succeed. So instead of taking 3 damage, they're going to take 2 damage. So these swordsmen are now reduced from 4 units to 2. Okay? Over here, the swordsmen are going to attack. They're already in position. They're going to attack back the cavalry. Swordsmen, they get they deal 1 damage, and the cavalry have no initial soak, but again, my leadership gives me +1. So again, this is an even roll here. And I fail, okay, and so that 1 damage does get dealt, and my cavalry is reduced by 1. All right, so both sides have fully went, okay, and that burning oil got used up already, okay. The skirmishers are now gone, okay, and so the step 3, again, we would narrate everything that happened in this turn. Both players would, together, collaboratively, also taking turns and playing off of each other, they would narrate what all this looks like. The burning oil trap going off and people getting incinerated, more catapults, launching volleys of boulders, the cavalry and the swordsmen fighting, and all that, arrows flying through the sky, and all these things getting to be narrated here at the end of the turn based on what happened. And then again, we'll do it again. So far, this fight has went 2 rounds, so it's been 40 minutes on the battlefield, and you can see that at this point, the forces have become greatly diminished. So we'll do one more round and see maybe if it's resolved by then, or who knows. Okay, again, we're going to do a leadership. Okay, now remember, we do have exploding dice in the game, so I rolled a 12 on a d12, so that is 14 plus 8, so 22. That is a hitch, so my enemy does get an initiative token, but it's 2 successes for me, so I'm going to get a bonus of +2 on all my soak rolls this turn. My enemy fails their soak roll, so they're going to suffer a -1 soak. Okay. All right, so my archers, they are attacking. They are going to attack the swordsmen. They are dealing 1 damage. The swordsmen get +2 soak normally, but it's -1 from the bad tactics. So it's essentially going to cancel each other out. So a 6 or higher is what they need. They got that. So the 1 damage is negated. They don't take any damage. The archers on the enemy side are shooting back at my cavalry. They are dealing the 1 point of damage from the archers. I'm also going to spend 2 initiative tokens to add 2 damage to that for a total of 3 damage. And This is going to be at -3, but I do get that +2 soak from my great initiative, I am going to get that +2 soak from my great tactics this turn. So it's going to be made at a -1. And it's a natural 10, which means I get to negate all the damage. So even though they were using their initiative to really push their advantage, and they had a great shot at killing a bunch of my men, I'm able to prevail and actually avoid taking any damage this turn from that attack. So good for me. All right. Over here on my side, my spearmen are going to attack their swordsmen. Spearmen deal 2 damage, swordsmen soak 2 damage, but the enemy is at a -1 on their soak, so gives me a slight advantage here on this roll. Okay. So that is just enough to make them fill the roll because of the -1 from their bad tactics, which means that that they take the 2 damage, which is enough to make that swordsman unit down to 0 this turn. Okay, they still get to attack this turn, and they're going to be attacking my cavalry, and so swordsmen deal 1 damage, cavalry do not get a bonus, but I still get the +2 from my tactics. So this is made at a +1, and I do succeed, and so the 1 damage is reduced to 0. So that works out good. My cavalry is going to attack the archers. Again, they can move and attack at the same time. Swordsmen have already been defeated, so the only one left on this side is the archers. The cavalry is going to attack them. Cavalry deals 2 damage. The archers do not get a soak. And they're also at a -1 soak because of the tactics. All right, so this roll is going to be made at a -3, and it's 2 damage incoming. And they did not make it. Okay, and so that 2 damage means that their archers are reduced from 4 to 2. And that is the end of this round. So again, we're going to clear out forces that have been used up and that are no longer present. This is the third turn, which means that this battle has taken place over an hour of time. My enemy is defeated. I am victorious. You can see who's left here. We'll say the enemy surrenders. They're down to just 100 archers, 2 units, 100 archers, because each unit is 50 troops. I've got still 150 archers, 150 spearmen, and 50 men on horseback. And so, clearly I've won the day. Now, maybe the enemy fights to the bitter end, and maybe you do one more round to see what it looks like as you wipe them out, or maybe they take out some more of yours. But in this case, we'll say the enemy surrenders. And so at the end of this turn, both sides get to narrate what it all looks like, and if it is concluding, if the battle's over, then you add that to the narration for the turn. Okay, so that is what mass combat looks like in Xenoplicity, where maybe you have the player characters actually in the middle of the combat, maybe squaring off against just some groups of soldiers, and then maybe they do that. Maybe they each have a fight or 2, and then they square off against a lieutenant or a commander or the general of the enemy's forces, that kind of thing. And so you play that out, and then you do the mass combat to determine what happens at the overall battle while all that's happening. Or maybe you do the mass combat first, and then you do the personal combats with the mass combat, in the backdrop of that. You can do that if you want. And that can be a whole lot of fun. Even if you just wanted to do a mass combat by itself, this system works really well for that. I mean, it's got enough crunch that you can definitely, build your forces and then pit them against each other, and it can play out in really fun, awesome ways. But it's not so overly complicated that it's like difficult or a headache to try to do this. So anyway, guys, let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and have a great day.